This is a real proposal with real resources, real teeth.
More than 3 years since Scott Morrison and then Attorney General Christian Porter announced the plan to create a National Integrity Commission, Australia still doesn't have one.
Has been delivering a Federal Integrity Commission this term been a non-core Morrison Government promise?
The term is not completed yet.
This week, Attorney General Michaelia Cash said establishing the anti-corruption body wasn't a top priority.
This government is paralysed in taking the action that really does concern Australians.
It's difficult to see how a bill could be passed before the looming federal election.
We've gone through a very long process of trying to convince people to support this reform, of consultation around this reform. We would welcome Labor's support for it.
The government's proposed model for a Federal Integrity Commission has not been received well. Former Supreme Court Justice David Harper believes the plan is fatally flawed, with limited powers to investigate politicians.
It does allow ministers off the hook, and indeed it's, I think, not too simplistic to say that parliamentarians are protected against any allegations of corruption.
Mr. Speaker,
Scott Morrison has made no secret of his disdain for an integrity agency with the same kind of powers as ICAC in New South Wales, and he's seized on its corruption probe into Gladys Berejiklian.
Australian people know that the former Premier of New South Wales was done over, Mr. Speaker, by a bad process. I'm not going to have a kangaroo court taken into this parliament,
The Prime Minister will resume his seat.
There is no doubt that the ICAC in New South Wales has made very occasional mistakes. But in general, it has done really good work in reducing corruption significantly in New South Wales.
One of the biggest integrity issues thrown up over the last 3 years has been how some taxpayer-funded grants are awarded.
The Auditor-General's gone as far as he can in investigating the absolutely shameless use of discretionary grant programs. That has got to stop.
A number of federal grants have come under scrutiny from the Auditor-General, including the $100 million Community Sport Infrastructure Fund and the $660 million National Community Car Park Fund. The Audit Office is also reviewing $215 million in community safety grants and a $1.38 billion regional grant fund.
The Auditor-General is very limited in the scope of his inquiries and has limited powers. A National Anti-Corruption Commission, certainly in the model that Labor has in mind, would have all the powers of a standing royal commission.
Tonight, 7:30 can reveal new questions about another government agency and how it hands out taxpayer funds. A previously confidential internal audit conducted in June 2020 by the Defence Department reveals widespread failures in their grants process.
Because so much money is spent on defence and so much hangs on who gets what contracts, is in a very vulnerable position.
The audit examined 7 defence grants and found 4 couldn't demonstrate whether the money had been spent as intended. It found conflict of interest records were not provided or inadequate, and a lack of detail when assessing grants or seeking ministerial approval.
Every one of them failed in one way or another to follow the prescribed procedures for obtaining grants. And that is very disturbing.
The Defence Department told 7:30 it's put a new system in place to strengthen accountability when it comes to grants. It said the audit made clear the errors did not identify serious wrongdoing.
It's really clear that Mr Morrison is not going to create an anti-corruption commission. He promised to do this more than 3 years ago, and we're not seeing it.
This Prime Minister, this government, does not wish to instigate a Federal Integrity Commission.
Fed up with waiting for the government to act, Independent MP Helen Haines introduced her own integrity bill in October last year.
It was very clear to me that the Morrison Government were not committed to ensuring that we had an Integrity Commission established during this Parliament. It's on the notice paper. It could be brought forward this afternoon for debate.
The Attorney-General Michaelia Cash declined an interview request with 730, but a spokesman said the government was committed to passing its national integrity legislation and had not ruled out introducing it before the election. They said a Commonwealth anti-corruption body must strike a balance between effectively dealing with the most serious forms of corruption and at the same time it must have appropriate safeguards to protect the rights and reputations of the people it investigates.
I think it is urgent. It is very important that systemic or serious corruption be properly investigated in ways which are simply impossible in the federal sphere today.
If we're to restore the trust of the Australian people, we need full transparency as well as accountability.
Hi, I'm Lee Sales. Thanks for watching this story. If you'd like to watch more of 730's stories, they are on the left of your screen. And tap on the button below to subscribe and get the latest from ABC News.